Okay, so good afternoon this week to all my friends and welcome here. Today we are going to discuss the subject of the design of this universe. And as we mentioned last week, we were talking about universe and the famous illustration from William Paley regarding the watchmaker. That's a very good starting point as we consider, as we look at the world around us, as we contemplate about life. Um, when William Paley gave that argument that when you see a watch, um, you need to ask the question, who made this watch, who designed it? And as you gone, so we are familiar with design as a subject. If you are in the fields like engineering, um, science, art, uh, you know um, architecture, interior designing, fashion, in all of these arenas of our work, we have people around us who design things. Now, design requires functionality. Design requires a purpose. Design requires efficiency, and all of these elements. As you look at the world around us, we are faced with those things. However, also in the contemporary thought, in the scientific world, there is this belief system regarding the theory of evolution, which basically was postulated initially by Charles Darwin, and then there were many others who came along, and it's found in our textbooks. And most people believe that it is an experimental proven science. However, uh, the issue of creation of this world and creation of humanity and the living beings is something which cannot be experimented in a laboratory. It cannot be proven by experiments or evidence, and hence it is something different than science. It's a blend. The creation science or the science of origin has to be treated in a way that um, the method which is used in history needs to be brought along. For example, if you were to let's say, I mean, one of my favorite tourist spots in the world is Egyptian pyramids, and I remember as I walked through these massive um, structures on the deserts of Giza. uh, you know uh, my thoughts actually went towards like who would be these people, how long back they were. And so imagine if you were walking through the same desert and you found a pile of stones. You would not be thinking that. But when you see this gigantic pyramid, these same stones set up in order in a way which you perceive to be designed by an intelligent person. So you are forced to think, who were these people? Why did they do this? And this is exactly how our world is. So when you study creation, when you study the origins, there are three elements to the origins: origin of the universe, then secondly there is the issue of origin of living beings itself. How did life come into being? And then the third question is origin of human beings. Now, if we, the first thing, I mean, so as we look at these thoughts and arguments regarding the subject, of course, very briefly, I will also touch upon how reliable the theory of evolution is. Can we really, if we are interested in truth, then we will need to dig deeper and ask the hard questions. And so, when we are talking about the universe and create and life and human beings, There are two methodologies which are very important, and because you can't carry out experiments, so one methodology is cause. Like, for every effect there is a cause. So when we ask the questions going back to the creation, like for example, if evolution has to explain, or let's say, if we go back to the theory of big bang, that the bang happened, like there was this mass, unknown mass, and then at some point of time, unknown, a long back in history, there was this big bang, and as a result the universe was set into motion. That's the big bang theory, I mean, in very short. But then the question is, in order to, you cannot just tell the effect. In order to explain the effect, you have to also ask the question about the cause. So my question would be, how did Big Bang occur? Why did Big Bang occur? Who initiated the Big Bang? And the science, or the so-called science, is not able to answer the question. However, when you approach this question of universe, how did it all begin ultimately? And Bible explains in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, uh, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and and it was just almost like an abrupt break in the eternity. There was God who existed before time, before the beginning, and at one point of time he started this work of creation. So the thing is, we will go, when the subject of design of this universe is discussed, there are a few factors to be noted, and I'm not going to be very scientific about it. I want to present this subject in a very simple manner, but let's consider this, and scientists know this, these are researched information. See, for this universe to be what it is today, it is a very complex system, but very stable system. We are not living in a universe which is, it is deteriorating, but it is not under destruction, which it's not like haphazard, it's stable. And in order to, and secondly, only earth has known sources of life. Out of all this huge vast universe, only earth has life in it. And when scientists study various factors which surround um, the support of life on earth, they find out that a lot of elements, for example the force of gravity, or the electromagnetic forces, or even the size of the earth, or even the percentage of oxygen in the environment of the earth, the inclination of the earth on its orbit, the time it takes to revolve around the sun, all of these factors, the placement of various planets in the solar system, all of these factors are so accurately designed to support life on the earth that if there was slight plus minus in a lot of these factors, we could not have life on this planet. And that's the reason there are galaxies after galaxies, which the you know the cosmologists have found, and the planets surrounding them, but none of those have been till now been able to give any evidence of life, while earth has life, and it's life with precision. It's not an accident. So as we move forward, let me first read one verse from Psalms, and Psalm chapter 19, verse 1. It says something, because these questions are not being discussed in order to debate a point of view. These questions are being discussed in order to get to the reality, and Bible expresses that reality in Psalm 19 verse 1. It says the heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. And then this goes on, and I think I read it last week. But this worshipper, this psalmist, is writing, and he's looking at the sky, looking at the sun, he's looking at probably more things, the nature and the beauty, and he is coming to this conclusion that all of this is actually reflecting the glory of God. And this is amazing. Romans 1, when Paul was writing, he said something like that. He said that God's attributes, divine nature, is visible through the things which he has made. Which means when you look at the design or the creation, it gives you clues about the creator. It gives you the clues about the mind and nature of that designer. That's beautiful. It's almost like, there are various authors and various people who express these thoughts. Sometimes they talk about God like as if he's an author, and actually it's true. Like when you read the book, you also get some clues regarding the mind of the author. And when so anyway, so I'll move forward, but let me also give you some things regarding. So what are some of those? Okay, one of the evidences of the creation comes from the second law of thermodynamics. In science, there is this law that the energy in this universe is continually uh, reducing, and as a result, you know the this universe is growing. What should I say? This universe is like it had to have a beginning, because if it was infinite, by now universe would have been over, considering its infinitely reducing energy. The energy would get drained, right? There has to be a beginning, because, and that's why the science had to bring the issue of Big Bang theory. If we could not have a Big Bang theory in science, then there was no way to explain an eternally existing universe. So there has to be a beginning. The science proves also, like universe is expanding, and then there are various other things. But let's come to the other thing, beginning of life itself. So okay, Big Bang happened, and the all the planets, stars, and all of the solar system came into being. Okay, fine, but all of this was non-living things. All of this was matter. So then the question comes, where did the life emerge from? Could life emerge from non-living things? Can someday these atoms, decide to start living on their own? Is it possible? Is it scientific? And the answer is no. And we know and we understand that life could not come from non-life, and only someone superior, the creator, is always in the superior order than the creation. So God, who has an eternal life in himself, when he decided to bring living beings into this world, he designed them, he created. Life could never come from non-life. That's another very important factor to understand, that evolution cannot be correct. Evolution is not, I mean, they can give theories. They say initially some simple beings came, and as they evolved, more complex beings started coming from. And that's wrong, because simple cannot give origin to the complex. Complex can give origin to simple. For example, computers cannot one day rise up and say, we will make somebody called man. Man made computer. Man is in the higher order. Man is more complex than computer itself. So it is the complexity which gives birth to simpler things, not the simpler things giving birth to complex things. Now, Carl Sagan, he's a well-known philosopher and scientist, and he is actually, he doesn't agree. He agrees with evolution. He doesn't agree with the biblical thought about creation and God. He made a statement. He says, if I received a single message from somewhere outside the earth, that will be enough evidence for me to know that there are other beings in the outer space. Very good statement. A single message. He says, if there is a single message coming from somewhere outside, from outside space, we will have to believe that there are extraterrestrial beings in some other planet which we have not yet found. Okay, so which means a message, an organized message, an intelligible message, is an evidence of existence of an intelligence, correct? Now let's look at our creation. Let's look at the world around us. Let's look at human DNA. Let's look at the complexity with which the living beings on this earth function, and the messages which are present there. Now, if we look at those messages, like for example, let's take another example. If you and I were in a park, and have you ever seen sometimes lovers put their names on the scratch their names on the tree or in a cave, and every time you visit a cave like that and you see the name of a girl and a boy written there, you cannot come to a conclusion that this writing on the wall came accidentally. You cannot. You conclude that somebody wrote those words. They are intelligible words written by somebody, and you think about who those persons were. But when we look at the messages given by God in this universe, in this whole design creation, we must think about who wrote it. And it's not just one message. If Carl Sagan was ready to believe one message to confirm that there were other beings in the universe, other intelligent beings in the universe, then why should we not look at this whole creation and look at the message of God? Look at his design. Look at the work of his fingers, as the psalmist says. And why should we not acknowledge that that intelligent being exists, and he's the one who created this world around us? Now, I will quote a few more examples. Last week also I was talking about the wings of the birds. Now think of human eye. In evolution, the parts of the bodies of the beings, as the mutations happened, as the challenges came, they upgraded. you know but look at human eye, for example, and we are talking science. Human eye is better than the any camera designed by human beings till now. And by the way, our camera technology has gone way forward. When I was growing in my childhood days, we used to have those simple cameras with black color films and those kind of stuff. Now we have digital camera. Now our phones have better cameras than some of my photography friends used to use in my college. So the point is, human eye is a beautiful camera, and this camera had to be meticulously this way for us to be able to see. If there was something wrong in this whole design of human eye, retina, and it's a complex machine, by the way. It's a very complex machine. It's a very intricately designed machine. And if one part of that whole system was misfit, then human beings would not be able to see. So evolution of human seeing did not happen. Man was able to see right from when he is. So there is no possibility of these kind of complex parts to be able to be growing according to the theory of evolution. The fact is that all of this, like when Charles Darwin wrote his book, you know uh, he did not have the information regarding what a simple cell is. In biology, there is something called simple cell. Now we call it simple, but if you have studied biology, or if you consult a scientist friend of yours, you will find out that if a human cell is seen under a simple cell is seen under a microscope, it's a tremendously complex machine. One human cell, one not just human cell, but a simple cell from any living organism, which Darwin's time was thought that it's a simple cell, but actually it's a very complex machine. It has a whole structure. It has a very well designed, even in that tiny micro cell. Think of human DNA. I mean, there are billions of words worth of information in that one DNA, which is actually capable of getting transferred meticulously from generation to generation. You use DNA to test a lot of diseases in people, to heal a lot of diseases. Tremendous lot of information is stored in every living being's DNA. And the question is, and it's a systematic information based on four words. There are four letters to that alphabet. If you know that, you know, we use 26 letters of English alphabet to make an encyclopedia, to have a dictionary. Create Man has done all that, right? We have language. You cannot say my dictionary is a product of a wind which blew and all these words jumbled up and created a dictionary. No, it's a product of a systematic collection of meaningful words. Likewise, from four letters of that genetic language, God has created billions and billions of long vocabulary of human characteristics and living being characteristics, and all of that is stored in a DNA. And why cannot we see that? And if we see that, we should admire the intellect who has created that. Now there are other. Now let's go to human beings. Like, what is the evidence that human beings are created? Genesis chapter 1 says, after creating all of the living beings, God finally said, let us make man in our own image. And that places man uh, one notch above the every other created beings. And uh, uh, it's amazing that now evolution says that small beings and monkeys seem to be the favorites. So from monkeys to chimpanzees, and then eventually came the man, and man is evolved from these lower animals. This is what evolution seems to claim. And here is, I'm quoting to you one scientist who tried to have do some experiments with chimpanzee, trying to teach chimpanzee uh, to speak human language. They attempted. This was an authorized project NIM, and finally they had to give up on the project. So here is that scientist writing. It is on record. He says, despite the frustrations of project NIM, I knew that there could be no substitute for that intelligent bundle of playfulness and mischief, a creature more human than any other non-human I knew. One of the reasons this parting was so painful was that there was no way to talk with him about it. Nim and I were able to sign about simple events in his world and mine, but how could I explain why I and the other project members who came along to Oklahoma suddenly abandoned him? So ultimately, basically, what he's saying is they could not teach this chimpanzee human language, and I mean these are some of the you know uh, failures, major failures of evolutionary thought. And you know we let's go to the issue of, like I just mentioned, human beings being a special creation of God. Because in our design, now Psalm 8, probably I read that verse last week, when psalmist says, God, when I look at your handiwork, when I look at your creation, then I think, let me read that verse, probably for the sake of. Um, so, Psalm chapter 8, uh, he says, when I look at your heavens, in verse 3, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? And I think our quest, and these questions and these discussions and topics which we are thinking, our quest should eventually lead us there. This grand designer, this creator of this whole universe, this God, I mean, unfathomable, eternal, intelligent, wise person, this God, he treats us as his favorites. That's amazing. He created us. The human beings are the crown of his creation. That's beautiful. And let's consider a few things about human nature of humankind. Because I mean, apart from live, I mean, I could have gone a lot more. I have a lot more information regarding, you know, how this whole system, how does life work, how does this biology of this universe work, and how complex it is, and how much it shows that how wise God is. But I'm going to little bit of a philosophical side of it. God created man in his own image, and what does that mean? And human dignity, for the first thing, you know, human beings have been given a special place. I love animals. I have my own pet, and I really play with him, enjoy him a lot. But human beings are way above. Human dignity is a very important thing, and every human being is a child of God. Every human being is made in the image of God. Now, also human sanctity, like we are sacred. We are, you know, we are we have been created to be holy. Though we are sinful, but we have been created to be holy. We are. I mean, Psalmist said in Psalm 139, we have been fearfully and wonderfully made. When God looks at us, he cherishes us. He has a purpose for us. He there is a We have been built in within us. A moral code has been built within us. We are creatures of right and wrong. Animals don't think like that. Animals do not have morality. They may have good and bad behavior, but still they don't have morality. They don't have sin. They don't have a system of justice. But human beings have been given that. The third one is, we are uh, we have been made in the intellectual and moral likeness with God. We are able to make decisions. We are able to make volitional choices. We have been given a free will. Then the other thing is, uh, we are responsible towards God. That free will makes us responsible towards God. God expects something from us. This is the truth about our creation. When God made Adam and Eve, he put them in the Garden of Eden, and then he said, every other tree, fruit from every other tree you can eat, but what you cannot eat is from fruit of one of the trees, the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They were to make that choice. I mean, sometimes people, critics ask this question: why did God create sin? God did not create sin. God gave them an opportunity to come clean. God gave them an opportunity to prove their obedience. Only one boundary was set, and that they were tempted by the devil to break that boundary, and man became sinner. Also, um, you know, the other fact about humanity is human unity. We are all humans. Let's understand this. Every human being, every race, every, we are all, our DNAs are similar, our designs are similar. Maybe our skin colors may be different, heights may be different, languages may be different, but look at it. Every human being on the face of this earth is a human being. They have 46 chromosomes in their DNA. They have the same kind of functionality in their body, mind, and soul. So there is something called human unity. All humans are the same. The other thing is human community. The author from whom I'm reading, he made a statement. He says, "No man is an island. We are not created to be alone." In the book of Genesis, after God had created Adam, he said, it is not good for man to be alone. And often that verse is used to express, about marriage, but also it's an expression of man's need for community. It's a reflection of God. The whole race is genetically connected. We are all, we are, it says, there is a statement, there are no self made men. Every man has a mother, and whole human race is interdependent. So, what's the purpose of human creation? Ultimately, this boils down to this: heavens declare the glory of God. But here is it: it's about the whole creation. The whole creation is uh, is made, has been created to glorify God. If we get to know Him, if we start appreciating Him, if we start knowing His nature and character, and start having a relationship with Him, that's the purpose for which we were created. That's the original design. And the other thing is, when God made Adam and Eve and He gave them the garden, He says, rule over it. Rule over it. You know what it meant? Multiply and rule. That was the command given. And the answer is, and it applies to us, enjoying God's creation. God has created something. He has created it for us. We need to enjoy it and guard it. That's what Adam and Eve were supposed to do, and that's the purpose of our life: to glorify God, to know Him, to have a relationship with Him, and also to enjoy His creation, to be a good steward of what has been given to us. So so this was the design principle. How did God design, and who designed it all, right? So Christmas season is come. Next week we are changing our gears, and we will get into Christmas related themes. So next week we will talk about incarnation. Okay, so thanks for joining me. I hope you are having a good time. Have a good week. God bless you. Take care.